The sun rose over a small village, its light touching thatched roofs and curling smoke into the morning air. Life was simple, yet difficult, bounded by forest and river, filled with unseen things. Villagers believed in spirits, charms, and curses woven into daily life. The church dismissed these as superstition, calling them remnants of pagan folklore. Healers and wise folk were respected, not feared. God was seen as all-powerful, the devil powerless. The idea of making a pact with Satan was considered absurd. The church focused on stamping out rival beliefs, not hunting witches, but villagers lived close to the earth, seeing good and evil in every misfortune. Illness, failed crops, or tragedy were seen as signs of malevolent forces. Folk remedies and rituals offered protection, horseshoes for luck, milk for fairies. Outsiders, old women, midwives, the odd, were viewed with suspicion. Stories explained the unexplainable, whispers blamed the unlucky, fear simmered beneath the surface, waiting for a spark. This was a world balanced between community and the unknown. The seeds of suspicion were already sown long before the witch hunts began. The fear was quiet but ever present. It only needed a reason to ignite. In 1487, everything changed. Two German churchmen published the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches. Unlike old teachings, it was a manual for finding and destroying witches. It claimed witchcraft was real, organized, and a threat to Christian society. The printing press spread its ideas rapidly across Europe. The book turned suspicion into a system, legitimizing fear and paranoia. Witches were now seen as conspirators with the devil, not just odd neighbors. Women were especially targeted, labeled as weak and susceptible to evil. The Malleus gave authorities a blueprint, how to question, what to look for, and how to extract confessions. Torture was justified, confessions were required. Accused witches named others, spreading panic. The book transformed gossip into legal evidence. Communities turned on themselves, neighbor against neighbor. The Malleus Maleficarum became the engine of the European witch hunts. It armed the fearful and the cruel with deadly authority. The world became far more dangerous, especially for women who didn't fit in. The nightmare had begun. Fear now had a manual. Greta, a widow and healer, lived alone in a German village. Her knowledge of herbs brought both respect and suspicion. She was different, old, solitary, and often kept to herself. Trouble began when a farmer's cow stopped giving milk. Greta had walked by the field. Whispers started. Soon after, a child fell ill. The mother remembered a quarrel with Greta. Fear grew. Suspicion hardened. The magistrate arrived, accusing Greta of witchcraft. Her herbs and charms became evidence of dark magic. Her black cat was called her familiar. Greta was thrown into a cell, her fate sealed by fear. The trial was swift and brutal. She denied all charges, but torture broke her resolve. Under agony, she confessed to everything, dancing with the devil, cursing the cow and child, naming others. Her confession sealed her fate. Greta was found guilty and burned at the stake. The villagers watched, believing themselves safe. Fear had claimed another victim. Greta's story was repeated across Europe again and again. The machinery of accusation and confession rolled on. No one was truly safe. Witchcraft panic crossed borders, reaching Scotland in the late 1500s. King James VI, obsessed with witches, believed they tried to kill him with storms at sea. His fear fueled the North Berwick Witch Trials, one of Britain's most brutal hunts. It began when a servant girl, Jilly Duncan, was accused of witchcraft for her healing abilities. Tortured, she confessed, and named others. Dozens, mostly women, were arrested and accused of raising storms to kill the king. Even members of the Scottish court were implicated. The trials became a national spectacle driven by the king's obsession. Agnes Sampson, a respected midwife, resisted but was tortured until she confessed. She repeated private words the king had spoken to his wife, convincing him of her guilt. Agnes was strangled and burned. King James wrote Demonology, spreading witch hunt fervor across Scotland. The king's paranoia gave the hunts royal authority and deadly reach. The North Berwick trial set a precedent for future persecutions. Fear, fueled by power, swept the land. no one was beyond suspicion. Witch hunts spread like contagion across Europe, Germany, France, Switzerland, and beyond. Each region had its own methods, but the pattern was the same: crisis, accusation, torture, confession, execution. Fear and suspicion spread from village to village, engulfing entire communities. The panic eventually crossed the Atlantic with English Puritans. In the New World, harsh conditions and strict religion bred new anxieties. The Salem Witch Trials of 1692 became the most infamous American example. It began with strange behavior among young girls. A doctor blamed witchcraft. The girls named names and accusations spiraled. Over 200 people were accused. 19 were hanged, others died in prison. The same old fears found new soil in America. Witch hunts became a cautionary tale, a warning of what fear can do. The legacy of suspicion and scapegoating endured. The old world's nightmares had crossed the ocean. The witch became a symbol of everything society feared. The cycle of accusation and hysteria was hard to break. The scars remain in history. The witch hunts were never truly about magic. Magic was a mask for deeper forces: fear, power, and the need for control. The witch became a scapegoat for a chaotic world. Accusations offered simple answers to complex problems. Fear was the engine of death, disease, outsiders, and especially women's independence. The church and state used fear to reinforce their authority. Witch hunts became tools for social and political control. Power shifted with every accusation. Anyone could be a victim or an accuser. Grudges and rivalries found deadly outlets. The social order was upended, but the authorities always decided guilt. The desire for control drove the hunts amid war, plague, and upheaval. Communities believed purging witches would restore order, but the control was an illusion built on suffering. The real magic was fear's power to turn ordinary people into executioners. The tragedy was collective, a society destroying itself to feel safe. The witch hunts reveal how easily fear can be weaponized. The lessons echo through history. The cost was paid in innocent lives. The witch hunts faded slowly, not with a single event but with growing doubt. Accusations became so extreme that even the powerful felt threatened. Skepticism crept into courtrooms. The Age of Enlightenment dawned. Thinkers like Newton and Locke championed reason and evidence. Science explained storms and disease, leaving little room for witchcraft. Judges demanded real proof. Torture and confessions lost credibility. Laws changed, making prosecutions harder. By the mid-1700s, the hunts had ended in most of Europe. The world became more rational, but the scars remained. Tens of thousands, mostly women, had died for an imaginary crime. They were healers, midwives, widows, and the different. The witch hunts were a war on female knowledge and independence. The story is a warning. Mass hysteria has a terrible cost. Fear, once unleashed, is hard to control. The victims remind us of the danger of conformity and the price of difference. Their memory stands as a somber lesson for all time.